Hi guys, my name is Renata and welcome to my channel. So I know that some of you know quite a lot about mixed media, but I thought to make one video for those who are just beginners. And in this video I will be showing you all there is to know about stamps and stamping. And I will demonstrate these techniques while creating these 4 beautiful tags. First, I thought to show you what kind of stamps are there on the market. These, which I'm currently holding in my hand, are called wooden stamps, as they are practically rubber mounted on a wooden block. To use this kind of stamps, you just need an ink and basically just press your stamp onto the ink pad and transfer the image onto the paper. The next type of the stamps which I would like to show you are called foam stamps. Same as the wooden stamps, they are a bit bulky when storage is considered, but on the bright side they are quite inexpensive and durable. But same like any other type of stamps, be sure to clean them off after use, so they would last much longer for you. The third type of stamps which I would like to introduce to you are the rubber stamps. They can come unmounted or, like the ones which I have in front of me, mounted to a foam layer which ensures better stamping. To use these stamps you can use fingers or acrylic blocks like the one in my hand. If you want your image to be better transferred and more clear, I do recommend using acrylic blocks. If you're worried that your image won't be perfect after the first stamping, I recommend using stamping platforms or stamp press. Stamping press ensures that you can stamp the image on exactly same location on multiple occasions. I mostly use stamping press when I am trying to stamp the quote for my art journal pages, or when I am trying to stamp focal images either directly on my page or for coloring. As some inks can be somewhat brighter or maybe old, so it can happen that you don't get the perfect impression on a first press. Now the last type of stamps which I would like to show you are clear stamps, also known as acrylic stamps or photopolymer or polymer stamps. As you can see, you can stamp them using your own hand if you don't care about perfect impression, or using acrylic block if you do want a better impression. Since these stamps are not mounted, they are quite flexible and they are easy to use on uneven surfaces. Now that you know something about the stamps, let's put this knowledge to practice. I took this metal die from Art by Marlene mixed up collection and made myself a die cut booklet. But this time I didn't want it in a book form, I wanted them separated for the examples that I'm going to do with you. So, I am covering the surface of my tag using Distress Oxide ink in Salvaged Patina color. As the plain color is a bit dull for background, I wanted to add some more interest. And one of the best ways to do that is using stamps. The stamp set which I am using is called Exclusive Textures from Essential line from Art by Marlene. And here you will see I am using the exact same ink which I used for background, so the results aren't quite visible. So what we should do instead, either take another color or just a different shade of the color that we previously used. And also, as you can see, I am not stamping the stamp in its full form, I am just taking little parts, as that way it can look more organic. And as you can see, I'm always taking some time to clean my stamps before packaging them. Now, as you have noticed, for the first stamping I have used acrylic block, but this time I am stamping with my hands, as I really wasn't interested in getting the perfectly crisp and even image. And I just wanted some random background interest. The same color that I used for stamping I will use to darken the edges of my tag. As Distress Oxides are water reactive inks, I am spraying some clear simple water to lift some ink from my tag and give some more additional interest to the background. Now my background was done, and what was left to do was to put an focal image from the paper elements from the signature release and the quote, and voila, a tag is done. Now let's go to the second one. I am starting very similarly as for the first tag, but with the difference that I am now mixing two colors for my background. But don't worry, I won't repeat myself, and I will do a really fun technique. And that will be stamping with water. Yes, you heard me well. I will stamp with water. And as I have said not long ago, distress oxides are water reactive inks. So what this means is that I will just lift off the ink with my stamps in the stamp pattern. This way you will never get the crisp image, but it is a fun technique for making discreet background interest. Soon I will show you from close what I mean. So as you can see, the image hasn't transferred perfectly, but it made a really pretty and fun texture. But the background still looks somewhat plain, so let's work a bit more. Using the same two colors that I used previously for coloring my background, I did some more stamping. But now the time is to stamp a quote, and as you can see, I am using stamp press. As for the sentiment, the image has to be really crisp to be able to read it. For stamping the sentiment, I will use a black colored ink as I want it to really stand out against the background. And the stamping press can help with that a bit too, because stamping twice just makes a color a bit more vibrant. And once again, I just added a paper element and some glitter from the special effect paints from Art by Marlene, and the tag was done. Now let's move on to the third tag, and for this one I will start with using Art by Marlene acrylic paints. I have sprayed some water on my tag as I wanted to mix my colors directly on the background. But as you can see, the effect isn't too impressive. So how to fix that? Well, we can do some stamping. Now, of course, some of us can't afford to have inks in all possible colors, but if you want to match them perfectly with your background, you can just use the same acrylics for stamping as well. This way, don't expect perfectly crisp results, but a little grungy effect always looks good, doesn't it? Just be sure to clean your stamp as soon as possible before the acrylic paint dries on them, because that might ruin your stamp. Also, the stamp set that I am using is called Mixed Elements from the Essentials line. Now, of course, we don't use stamps only for decorating our backgrounds, but also for stamping the focal images. My future focal image comes from the stamp set called Crazy Birds from Back to the Nature collection. I am stamping it on a separate piece of paper as I wanted to color it with acrylic markers, so I'm also using an appropriate ink which won't bleed through when coloring. Before choosing with which ink you do the stamping, be sure to plan ahead which medium you will use for coloring, so you don't ruin your image and your effort. Here you can see that I don't really bother fussy cutting tiny elements like legs, so I just drew them additionally later. But if you don't like to draw it yourself, you can just stamp the image before adhering the colored image, that way you would have the legs without drawing them. And with this, the third tag is done as well. So now to the fourth and last tag. And this time I will show you how you can use your stamp and stamping for coloring, in a way at least. This technique doesn't work with any ink, it only uses with inks which are water reactive. If you are unsure if your ink is water reactive, you can always find additional information on the back of the packaging of your ink pad. Anyway, here as you can see, I am spraying the water over my stamped images. Now I know this looks like a mess, but later from closer you will see that some of the images were preserved and they didn't dissolve completely. But my tag did become a tad too green for my taste, so I am adding a bit of more blue color. Blue inks are usually more staining, so they don't dissolve as easily as some other colors, as you will see soon. So the pattern stays somewhat more clear here. Now I will bring in another art by Marlene clear stamp set, and this one is called Notes. But take a note here, sometimes I do wish my image to be transferred completely in a most and best crisp way as possible, while on other occasions I just want a certain parts of the stamp image. As you will see here, I did want this grid pattern from my stamp, but I didn't want that hashtag symbol, so I am using my finger to stamp only the parts of the stamp itself. The other ways to hide the parts of the image that you don't want is either to use a piece of paper or a masking tape. And once again, with art by Marlene's most practical and beautiful paper elements and quotes, I have completed one more tag. One of the first things which I fell in love with mixed media was stamping, how it can be used in various ways to make background interests, to stamp beautiful quotes, sometimes pre-prepared as this one, or you can just get alphabet stamps to create your own sentiments in case you don't like your own handwriting. But also you can stamp these beautiful images like these two birds, which you can use on any type of projects that you are creating. And these images you can stamp either directly on your paper or prepare them for fussy cutting as I did here. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you have perhaps learned something new about stamp and stamping. Thank you for watching. Bye!